Hey, Tom. Um, First of all, thanks for being with us. Thanks for talking to me a little bit. And just a basic question. First of all, where are you located?
St. Louis, Missouri,
Oh,
right in the
uh,
middle.
why?
Why?
Not in the bad way, but like why St. Louis?
Well, I grew up, effectively grew up here, right? And in St. Louis, we like to say I grew up on the Illinois side of the river, just across with the stone's throw away. But went to school here, and then I got kind of landlocked. Started company. This is actually my second company, so started two companies, had kids. They're integrated into the school system here, friends network, that kind of stuff. So just where life is and where life got started for me.
And is Rivet one of the only startup things going on, or is it a very kind of growing, fast growing, Silicon Valley like, but in the
Yeah.
middle of the country experience?
Yeah, so I'd say St. Louis is probably very underrated for a lot of reasons, both in terms of the city itself, the amenities. We've got one of the largest parks in the city in the country, bigger than Central Park in New York, Forest Park here in St. Louis, very underrated. So between the university systems that are here, Washington University, things like that, we actually do have a very vibrant startup ecosystem. Uh, I would say that from a startup ecosystem perspective, we actually look a lot like Boston. So we always kind of say we're like Boston's little brother, or Boston's little sister,
Yeah.
in terms of kind of what we look like, and just when you look at the city itself, a lot of academic, large academic environment, tons of universities that are influential inside of the city. Very strong sort of subsectors of economies, like a very strong construction economy actually in St. Louis, things like that. Very strong financial economy. Edward Jones is headquartered here. Wells Fargo has a large presence here, et cetera. So we're kind of well known for a few different arenas. Probably outside of St. Louis, best known for Anheuser-Busch, but known
For
as the
all the
beer town.
crowd, hopefully they'll where where you started. Rivet started St. Louis.
That's right.
And
That's right. Eventually, we'll be known because this is where Rivik got started. Yeah. So no,
exactly.
we got a lot of really good community support, a lot of good community programs. There's several, um, VC investors that are based out of here. There's several, uh, you know, startup like accelerator programs based out of here. We got a lot of corporate support and investment. There's one investment vehicle in particular that invites corporations into the startup ecosystem and supplies resources for accelerator programs, those types of things. So
It's cool. So if I'm looking, at a Mast is a B2B marketplace and we're a startup. So the conversation we do on the community conversations sometimes goes towards more construction or real estate, sometimes more really about the world of marketplaces, technology, everything. So before we dive into Rivet, I really want to know, what do you guys do? How do you see this world? Um, as a CEO and founder, would you say that you have enough talent around you, or do you have to like drag people from the coasts into your team to get them, working for Rivet?
no, I think it's again, it's a tough environment, right? A lot of sort of the best talent, like they're not necessarily out there looking for jobs, right? So, I think it's incumbent upon any founder, any leader of a company to really figure out how they're going to create their brand, but from an employer perspective. And so, fostering a strong brand that attracts the type of people that you want to join your company, kind of puts the culture in place that you want to and emphasize and enforce and elevate in the eyes of the people that are looking at you as a potential landing spot to move their career forward. If you do those types of things, if you're intentional about those types of things, from my experience, the talent is there, and you don't necessarily have to think about going to the coast. Now we are mostly employed out of the St. Louis market. We do have some virtual or remote team members that live in other areas of the country, but not necessarily, scraping from the coast, right? So we've got, people that live in Indianapolis. Mike actually on our team, he lives in, southern Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks. If
Yeah.
anybody's seen Ozarks on Netflix,
Of course. Not a
we
very good image of that region, but I've been there. It's beautiful. So
yeah, it is. It is. It's not all what the show provides, right? But
Of course, like anything else.
yeah.
No, yeah,
So no, we
perfect.
do a good job, but I think COVID has created an environment where we've embraced the virtual world that we all have had to live in for the past 12 months, and to that regard, we've been less geographically bound on how we attract and bring talent onto the team. But from a St. Louis perspective, I've never necessarily felt like I couldn't get the talent that I needed. I just kind of assumed the challenge of figuring out how to make my employer brand one that invites and attracts the people that we're looking to bring onto the team.
Yeah. And from capital, like, do you feel like you need to be by the bankers of New York or by the Silicon Valley VCs, or you think that you
No,
can?
we've been fully funded so far from almost strictly Midwest investors. We've
Wow.
been very well supported out of our St. Louis network of investors. And so, our story in particular has been one that's been strong in terms of promoting the capability of a town like St. Louis, right? We're a small town, big city, as the saying goes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not too many degrees of separation, but with respect to the reputation we've built as a business and the support we've achieved so far in the fundraising realm, we've been very lucky, and our story, I think, has been really propped up by the fact that we've had almost every dollar we've raised so far has come from the Midwest.
Very, very cool. Excellent. So let's just dive right into Rivet. If I jumped on a New York elevator with you, because I don't know how tall the buildings where you are, but you have a few more minutes, So tell me very fast, for someone who's clueless, what does Rivet do?
So we're a data platform for construction, right? So if data is the currency of business, we're helping construction companies unlock that value, right? So we're really helping construction companies figure out how to use their data, move their data, and adopt technology at a faster rate. So our job is to help them figure out what technology moves their business forward, and then we manage the data for them to make sure that it's moving between all of that technology appropriately, easily, without failure, and that they've got good data to run the business. So
So,
effectively,
so, so for me to understand it, so you don't accumulate the data yourself, correct?
correct. We're not necessarily generating data
Mhm.
for them, more so as they generate data in the tools they're using, right? If they're using their project management system, their accounting system, those
Or
applications,
amassed in that, they
or
like
math,
material,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
As
yeah.
they're generating data in the applications they need to run the business, we make sure that data is moving between all of those applications, and that we're helping them maintain a clean data profile so that if they need to get some information out to make decisions, they know that information is good because good data came in, good information came out.
So are you coming more from the world of um, uh, consulting, or more of the world of data analysis and distribution for the right departments?
Yeah, so think platform, right? So kind of the new world order in the world of technology is um, to have a platform help you operate your business. And so we're a platform for construction companies to help them really operate their business from the perspective of data, right? And so we can help them organize their data. We can help them move the data between applications that they're using. We can help them, get insights in that data, et cetera. But really,
Do you
we're a
also,
platform to help run the business.
yeah, do you also recommend them what data should be collected from your experience? Because because my experience of, I've been in real estate for so long, not in the technology part, is a lot of people don't know. There's very little best practice in this industry. It's really about, that's what my dad taught me, or that's what I learned from my first job, and I keep on doing it, even though the world have completely transformed in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, you used a key word earlier, I think, in terms of marketplace, right? So we're a platform organized around, helping construction companies manage their data effectively, but we kind of wrap that in this marketplace concept. So we effectively make recommendations based on the, kind of what the right fit for one of our customers might be, based on what partners and solutions we have in our marketplace, and because almost all of our customers, once they start working with us, they instantly are like, all right, I need a solution to help me onboard employees and manage applicants and things like that, right? So I need some type of HR system.
Yeah.
What's on your marketplace? Because if it's not on your marketplace, I'm not even interested. But if it's on your marketplace, I know it'll integrate. I know that I can trust that it's going to work for me, et cetera. So what options do I have? And so we'll make those referrals over to them and support them in their journey to select the right fit for them. But we believe strongly that we should not put square pegs in round holes. Technology should enable the business. The business shouldn't necessarily have to change the way that it's developed its secret sauce in order to fit into the technology. So we believe in establishing the right fit with the technology. But we want companies in this industry to use a lot more tech. They're far behind other industries, and so our entire mission is organized around making it easier for construction companies to adopt technology. We want them to use more technology. We want them to use more of it, use it faster, apply it to every area of the business that it's not being applied to. No more paper stuff, no more fax machine stuff, right? Let's kind of help the industry at large come into the digital age.
Yeah, do they, but do you find that people you speak with know the problem they're dealing with, or do you sometimes, because you see a much more horizontal picture from different companies, do you say, hey, have you ever noticed this? I mean, because I think one of the challenges with a very traditional business like real estate and construction is that they're stuck in the way they see the world, or
Yeah.
not like in a bad way, just that's how they see it. And you have a much broader exposure to different things they maybe never thought about.
Yeah, not all the time. I'd say we are in scenarios where they're like, yeah, well, no, I mean, this is, we get this, we put it into a spreadsheet, we manipulate the spreadsheet, and then we do something with the spreadsheet, and then we send it to 5 people, and they reply back, and then we incorporate back into the spreadsheet, and then it's like, okay, just because that works doesn't mean that you're doing valuable work. You're wasting
Yeah,
time. So
yeah.
we can automate all of that for you. And they're like, really? You can? Okay, yeah. And so, yeah, that happens constantly, almost every day, right? We're helping them devise insights into how they can spend their time more effectively. And then, we all get locked into that scenario where, well, yeah, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. Well, why? It's like, well, I don't know. That's how I've always done it, right? You don't
Yeah,
always
yeah,
stop to think like, oh, I could take 10 steps into one step if I sought a way to automate the other nine.
yeah. Who's your typical client?
So I'd say the largest cohort of customers we have today it's not necessarily within a specific trade, but construction companies above 50 million are who we've had the most traction with to
So
date.
you're talking about GCs, general contractors?
We have a large cohort of general contractors, but also a lot of trades and specialty trades
Okay.
as well.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I don't know how it is there, but union, non-union, does it matter at all?
that we haven't noticed any trend one way or the other, frankly.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Well, so they come to you, they say, okay, Tom, I know I gotta get better. I'm not really sure how. Show me how to say, dive in, show me what's the best practice I can accumulate. What's the feedback you're getting from the people when you go beyond the CEO who says, Tom, here's the check, go for it. Do you see hunger? Do you see pushback? What's the overall culture of corporate of construction companies to technology?
Uh, I think recently, the overall sort of tenor of construction companies around technology has been one of almost approaching fatigue because there's a lot of choice out there now. Right, so we've seen, I think for all the right reasons and for good reasons, and ultimately to the benefit of the industry, we've seen a lot of entry of technology into the industry over just the past 2 or 3 years. There was a study, and I'm probably going to reference it slightly incorrectly, so I'll just kind of generalize it. But
Go
you
for it.
know,
Do you know that 94.3% of statistics are invented? You know
probably if I
that?
wouldn't. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's something like, we went from like less than 500 technology options in the industry a couple years ago to now there being almost 5,000, right? So we've almost 10x the number of technology options to the industry. And so I think a lot of folks in the industry are kind of their heads spinning because there's almost too many now, or there's a lot of entry. And so they're like, all right, well, what do I use? You're using what? And he's using something different and she's using something different. So which one's the right one for me? So, I think that there's going to be a little bit of a shakeout period here for some of the winners to rise to the top and to dominate market share. And and things like that. And as we see some of these new markets develop, because problems that have existed for a long time that just now have solutions coming to market, there are going to be some winners that no one could have even saw coming, because it's a new solution to an long standing problem that, again, people were just doing it because that's the way it always worked, right?
Yeah.
But now there's going to be a better way to do it. So
And those 5,000 companies that you spoke about, what do you think is what was the most amount of weight? Is it in the uh, preparation? Is it on site construction? Is it coordination between sections? Is it in the construction market? Like us, where do you see kind of like most of the efforts of that prop tech and construction tech world coming?
So I see from my perspective, I'd say I see most of it in the realm of trying to collect data from the field, generally speaking, right? It could be now here's kind of the caveat around, those 5,000 entrants into the market. Most of those today are really addressing only one use case, right? They might be addressing one workflow in the construction process, or they might be addressing one pain point. Now, over time, they'll eventually address two, then three, and then get up to 10, and then you start to see. But that's where you'll also start to see some acquisition opportunity and
Yep.
things like that, in terms of some of those solutions consolidating and becoming a more comprehensive suite of products and whatnot. And so, project management, I think, is getting a ton of attention right now. A lot of, Procore is kind of the big
It
popular.
becomes the behemoth of the industry to some degree. I
Yeah,
think.
right. And so, in a good way, they've really helped change the minds and attitudes of a lot of folks in the industry to adopt cloud, move into a more digitally collaborative platform based delivery of technology. And so, from that perspective, really good thing for the industry. But now you're going to start to see a lot of a lot of competition for people gunning for Procore, right? They
Of
became
course.
popular. Now everybody wants to be the next Procore.
Yeah.
So a lot of entry into the project management realm. I'd say a lot of entry in the time collection and realm, in terms of trying to collect time and things like that out in the field, and just overall, like, trying to track progress of the project. I think, in terms of collecting data based on what's been constructed. There's a lot of emphasis on, work in progress and percent complete and those types of concepts. And I think you're seeing a lot of activity around trying to simplify ways to collect data, measure progress, report on performance, and then ultimately supply all that backup material that's generally required in order to get paid.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it's mind-blowing that such a huge, I think it's the second largest industry in the world, real estate and real estate development after finance, that it has such a lack of integrity in its DNA. So basically, like, when you tell it's going to take a project a year and a half to build and $50 million, it's not going to be $50 million, it's not going to be a year and a half. And everybody knows it. And I'm
Right.
not saying people are doing it on purpose, just like you really have the intention of finishing, but there's so many components that can go wrong and things are delayed and labor and material and logistics and it's mind-blowing how behind. I don't know if you know that, but Gardner looked at the top 20 industries in the world, and from a technology development perspective, and real estate is number 20.
Yep.
uh, and
That's one.
it's the second largest industry in the world, like just
Right.
mind-blowing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
Tom,
that's where
yeah,
there's just a massive gap to fill, right? So I think all this technology entry that's focusing specifically on construction technology is really positive for the industry, because you're talking about a huge gap. I think one of the statistics I heard was $2 trillion a year of construction is left on the table just due to the lack of technology adoption. And if we fill that gap, we could put $2 trillion of construction in place more every year than we currently are capable of as an industry, which is a significant impact to, the world around us, right? Our communities, those roads get built faster, things like that. So
yeah. So Tom, if we could jump to 2031, right? Like 10 years from now. How different do you think? Because you have a really broad exposure to trends and what's important to your clients, and also what's the solution out there to resolve it. What, if we travel 10 years from now, how would construction sites and construction processes look differently?
I think the best way I could attempt to articulate that, I think one trend that is for sure going to take hold between, over the next 10 years. I like to say that the technology stack of a lot of construction companies these days are kind of stuck in the, closer to circa 2000 than circa 2020, right? Um, so I'm hopeful that the technology stack is going to look like a 2030 technology stack. So there's going to be a lot of investment and effort required for construction companies to maintain pace, maintain competitive advantage, and effectively meet the demand that's coming their way from the world around them. And so I think we're going to see everything's cloud. Everything is finally fully cloud based.
Yeah.
We're going to see a significant, amount of adoption as the workforce gets younger. They're going to expect that I have tools in my hand that look something like, if you can't see it, I'm holding my cell phone, right?
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
tool I'm going to want to be working with, not necessarily, pen and paper, that type of stuff, right? So as the workforce gets younger and they expect to have technology, they expect to have choice. So I think you're going to see an environment where you might have one worker using one app and another worker using another app because they prefer it that way.
Mm.
And so you'll see a lot of choices being made at the worker level, at the job level. I've got a job to be done. Let me select the tool I use to get it done. But that's going to create a different problem for like the CIO than what we've seen in the past, right? The CIO might not select the application for the company anymore. He or she has to figure out how to get all of these tools these people are selecting for this project versus that project versus
Yeah.
this project. Now I've got a different problem. I've got data everywhere in all these different systems. I still have to run the business. I still have to report financials. I still have to get people paid and things like that. And so, those are going to be some of the challenges in terms of what it looks like, but we're going to transfer some of those challenges we have in the field today to the back office tomorrow. And I think you'll start to see the switch flip a little bit in terms of like how and where decisions are made. And I might be um, overgeneralizing this, but I think today you see the back office control a lot of how the field does their job, and I think you'll see that flip. The field will control how they do their job, and the back office will have to adjust accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the things you didn't touch, which is interesting, is I think there'll be also fundamental change in the material we use.
Yeah,
So whether because environmental demands from whether the customers or because the world is changing, I think a lot of time will need new education because you might have someone who's a framer and been a framer for 20, 30 years. Now they have to work with completely different material.
yeah,
So I think that one of the things technology might help is the ability to train people in new material that is not that they used to 2x4s or whatever concrete pouring, which is probably one of has a huge environmental impact. So that will be one of the interesting thing how technology can help people adjust and modify the way they do construction.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. I think one of the I'm curious to see again like COVID I think is an opportunity for us to kind of see what type of demand we're going to get from the world around us and what that demand might look like. And I think you've seen a lot of people as they had to stay home more often, they started to want to change their space more often. And so I think when you talk about materials, like, I'm not intimate to necessarily some of the materials technology that's coming, but I've heard things that I think to me are interesting in terms of like materials that can morph. All right, so you could have a space that can be changed
Yeah.
on the fly, and we won't necessarily be so kind of restrictive in how we build things because you'll be able to mutate that space in order to change that environment on a more regular basis, and kind of always be shifting, always be changing, always be adjusting in terms of the environment around you. And so I think materials is a big area of emphasis in terms of 3D printing, just some of the technology that's coming down the pipe in terms of how materials are being developed, being deployed. It's going to be interesting. You're looking at drones doing deliveries, all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So last question. Where will Tom and Rivet be in 10 years?
Well, if if I have my way, Tom will be retired, and
You're like having a beer on a yacht.
right,
Uh,
right, and
yeah.
my successor will be running a very successful business.
Yeah.
But joking aside, my goal again is to sort of drive impact for the industry and therefore the world around us in terms of how the industry performs. So, my goal is for Rivet to touch some aspect of data for every project that's being performed worldwide. So if we can make that happen in the next 10 years, we'll have been blessed to take advantage of the opportunity ahead of us. But that's what we're working on.
Cool. So last one, Tom, and I'll let you go back to work. So any trends you think we should follow? Any things either, it could be anything, it could be media, book, articles, material, software, something like you should really watch that because I personally, Tom, love what's happening there. We should watch it in our field. Anything like that? And if you don't have one, that's fine. I completely put you in the spot.
Yeah, you are putting me on the spot. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
one thing I can come up with, and it is industry related, I would encourage listeners to go check out constructionprogress.org.
Which
Uh,
one? Construction what? Say it again.
constructionprogress.org.
Oh, cool.
So it's a sort of community-based association that's meant to serve the industry, and its mission is to bring industry and technology together, and to really work with industry on educational concepts in order to get buy-in for technology adoption, standardization of how technology gets deployed, standardizing processes and workflows across projects.
That's a
Things
great recommendation. So as someone who was put on the spot, right on,
Yeah, man.
that's
I mean, it's even dealing with things like mental health awareness and things like that, right? So just really great community engagement and collaboration around things that are important to the industry, and a lot of the topics we just got done talking about, right? So I'd encourage everyone to go check that out.
that's awesome. Tom, I really enjoyed our short conversation.
Yes,
Hopefully our roads are going to keep on intertwine. And
yeah,
as we're growing from the northeast and the east coast towards the center, hopefully we'll bring a mast to your family of platforms, and we can take it from there. But I really, really appreciate your time.
I agree. Appreciate it.
So
Thanks for having me.